That brings us to the Chief Financial Officer's report. Scott.
Okay. If we could look at Board Book page 19, please. We'll go over the December 2018 financials. The first report that you'll see is the monthly financial report. This represents 50% of our fiscal year. Total monthly revenue from all funds was approximately $324,000. Out of those main categories of revenue, general state aid, the evidence-based funding formula accounted for $173,000, and rental income generated $81,000 for the month. On the expenditure side, total monthly expenditures were $6.6 million. Operating expenditures for the month were $1.89. If we look down at the expenditures, salary and benefits account for $1.48. Out of district tuition for the month was $126,000. And then you'll see we had to make a bond and interest payment of $4.7 million. Our operating fund balances at the end of December was roughly $14 million. Just as a reminder, the board has restricted $3 million. So if you look at it, it would be $11 million for our operating fund balance. If we look at the monthly financial statements, the first report on Board Book page 20 just shows our beginning balances of all funds with revenue and expenditure year to date ending December 31st. If we look at the revenue side for the first
Which is on
6
21.
months, which is Board Book page 21, you'll see that our revenue is down a little bit from last year's. With it, some of the things that we're noticing here is that the state hasn't made as many payments that it made last year. So they've made one payment from this year that they've given to us, which was the fourth payment from last year. So this year we haven't seen anything with it. So it's a trend out there within the state. We're monitoring it. I don't know if it's going to be 2 payments or 3 payments by the end of June. So that's something that we're going to keep an eye out on with it. With that, transportation is really affected on that. So you'll see why that is actually at 34%. So we're missing a couple transportation payments on that, which would really help out with it. And then with the ed fund, we're also not getting some of the special ed private placement money from the state.
We should eventually see that reimbursement.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of when you see
Of
it.
when you're
whether
gonna
it's
see
this
it.
fiscal year. And
Could be this year, could be next year.
Whether it's in this year.
Don't you wish you could pay your bills like that? Maybe this year, maybe next year. I don't know, when we get around to it.
If we go to Board Book page 22 and look at the expenditure side, things are tracking fairly close to what we were doing last year. We're at 52% of our operating budget. If we track exactly where we're at, I think we're going to come in at budget or under budget, barring any major emergencies that pop up.
well, that would depend if we get the payments though too, right?
He's talking
The
On the
expenditure side.
expenditure side. Okay.
The next report is the revenue expense report. There were some questions submitted on the revenue expense report. There was a question on Board Book page 23 in regards to levy prior year. We're currently sitting at 98% in pretty much all the funds with that prior year. We're slightly under budget as to what was budgeted on it, but if we get the same tax collection rate that we have budgeted and people make their March installment on time and we collect that from the county, I'm anticipating that we'll get overall collection between current year and prior year to average out to what is budgeted out there within the current budget. Then again, here, we're counting on our taxpayers to make that installment in March with it. The next question submitted on the revenue expense report was on Board Book page 24 under student fees for world language. It looks like it's about $7,400 over budget.
Can you stop there? You said this is part of my problem. Student fees, where does it say world language?
WL.
WL,
So WL stands for world.
world
And
language.
then WRK is workbook.
Yeah, so these are all the fees that are associated with the different courses within the
Okay.
world language department.
Okay.
After pulling out all the fees that were collected and going through the distribution of everything, the AP fees are still left in there. So that needs to be redistributed out and moved from the board account into the student activity account for AP testing.
For world language.
To pay for the AP test for world language.
Okay.
That's approximately $6,800 will be moved out of that account.